Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. One of the things I've been thinking about is how many of my subscribers actually have their own YouTube show as well. I would like to know if you do have one. Let me know. I would like to take a look at it. I'd like to get an idea of what people subscribe to my show, and if they do, what they have their own. If a subscriber has their own show, I like to see what kind of show they have. Just check it out. Um, I basically do not watch history shows myself. My show is about preserving history, but the kind of videos I watch are yard mowing, yards that are out of control being mowed. I definitely like watching Al Blades. It's definitely SB mowing, outdoors with Eric. I like all those videos. I do look at some cleaning videos. You've got Midwest Magic cleaning. You've got Bonnie that has my beautiful mess. Very, 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 very nice smile. Very, very, very attractive smile. And others that I watch are, there's a couple of them. There's a young lady that moved from Kentucky to North Dakota that bought I guess an abandoned house for $1 and has restored it and moved into it, and been very interesting to watch those videos. She comes on every Sunday. Tia Weston, as a matter of fact. I like her videos. There's also a young lady in Virginia that's bought an old general store and is turning that into a house. It's very interesting to watch. He's found all kinds of things that are in the building that are over 100 years old. Emma Shea. And most recent one I've been looking at is young man Zach Rock in Canada that has also bought, I believe, an abandoned house and is working on fixing that one up. He's at the beginning stages right now. He's basically still in the process of, he's nearly done, but still in the process of tearing out the drywall, and he may have that done by now, but it'd be interesting to see what he does with that house as well. I've had this thing on pause for about the last hour trying to figure out what kind of show I'm going to do today, and I do have a list of future ones to do, only 4 on a list as a matter of fact. I kind of like to keep that as a reserve when I really hit a dry spell, and I was trying to figure out what to talk about. I thought of actually talking about one of the things on the list, but the NFL draft happened last week, and I used to wear the Ravens jersey when at the very beginning. I noticed on the YouTube shows I did. I was looking at some of my first ones, and it would be. I was doing one where some of them during the football season would talk about the various Ravens games at the beginning, and well, I've kind of gotten frustrated with the NFL. Some people will agree with me, some people will not agree with me, and that's fine. But anyway, I've seen a lot of evidence watching games that a lot of these, a lot of questionable calls made by the officials, a lot of officiating and bad officiating. And this has been going on for the past 20 years, and I have never been a fan of the instant replay. At least when it started, I wasn't a fan of it. It prolongs a game, but with the poor officiating that's being done, they have to have it. There's no choice. We need it because one of the bad calls can really affect the outcome of a game. But I remember the Holy Roller play that happened in the 1970s. I personally thought that was unfair how the Raiders won that football game at the time. They didn't have a rule, but I believe now if there's a fumble between the 20-yard line and the end zone, last 2 minutes, I believe fumbles can't be advanced or something. I forgot exactly how that worked, but I do remember the Raiders were losing the game to the Chargers, and they were on a 20-yard line in the last seconds, and Ken Stabler fumbled the football, and then the players just kept pushing it forward in the end zone, and Dave Casper ended up recovering in the end zone, the ball in the end zone, and it was a touchdown for the Raiders. The Raiders won. And from what I was reading, I believe their coach at the time was Tommy Prothro, and he quit after that decision was made. And it was the only time in the season I've ever seen a coach leave and then another coach is brought in from the outside. That's the only time I've ever seen that myself. I'm sure it's happened other times, but they brought in the old Cardinals coach, Don Coryell. He took over the Chargers, and they had a good quarterback and Dan Fouts, great receivers, and sad. Don Coryell's teams, the Cardinals and the Chargers, had great offenses. He had Jim Hart with the Cardinals, but his teams did not have good defenses. He never focused on getting a defense together, and that's why they didn't win football games. You look at the record of the Dallas Cowboys of the 1960s, 1970s. They had great defense, and that's why they won a lot of football games. And going in the 70s, the Steelers, same thing. The Steel Curtain, they had a great defense. That's why they won some Super Bowls. And I believe at the time they had like the record for the most Super Bowl wins. I believe the Patriots have ultimately tied that one. But anyway, what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about the draft choices that the Ravens made this year for the year 2025. I was thinking about discontinuing doing that each year, but I don't know. I might go back to watching football. I did not watch much of it last year because out of frustration over mainly officiating and some other things as well I'm not going to get into. But anyway, the Baltimore Ravens draft class consisted of 11 players, including a safety, an edge rusher, an offensive tackle, and several other positions. The Ravens total 11 picks, making them one of the teams with the most picks in the draft. Interesting. And round one, the 27th pick overall, Milwaukee Starks, safety from Georgia. Says it's perhaps the best defensive fit of the first round. A quote from DeCosta, the general manager of the Ravens: in my experience, if you're going to lose a game, an easy way to lose is by having a bad secondary. So we never want to be in that position. That's a bad place to be. End quote. Question comes up, will he start as a rookie? It says likely scenario. So we'll see how that does. I'm always happy to see them work on building up the defense. I feel that you need to solidify your defense first before you have a solid offense. Work on a defense first. Get a good defense. That's how the Ravens won the 2001 Super Bowl. They had one of the best defenses I'd ever seen. Matter of fact, they pretty much solely won the Super Bowl on their defense. The offense was not that great, and they did not. The quarterback that they had that year came from another team, was kind of a journeyman, and he was cut after the Super Bowl. At the year after, he was cut from the team. He wasn't even on the team the next year. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they made a trade with Tennessee for Steve McNair, if I'm not mistaken. Round 2, the 59th pick was Mike Green, edge Marshall. Edge, what is an edge? I've seen that this year, and take a look here. Edge rusher was one of the Ravens' biggest needs because of the uncertainty surrounding the futures of Baltimore's top two outside linebackers, Kyle Van Noy and Odafe Owe, both of whom are coming off double-digit sack seasons. So, they're some kind of player on the defense. I guess edge. I haven't seen edge until this year. This is what I'm reading off of the internet. Another thing off the internet. Key stat: even though the Ravens ranked second in the NFL with 54 sacks, they needed to improve at edge rusher because of their 33% pass rush win rate was the fourth worst in the league. Green was one of the most disruptive forces in college football last season. All right, moving on. Round 3, 91st pick, Emory Jones Sr., offensive lineman, LSU. Says they addressed their top need on offense by taking Jones, 3-year starter known for his run blocking, but has been effective in pass protection. Good. Quarterback always needs protection. Keep Lamar Jackson from getting injured. That happened like two years in a row a few years ago, and definitely don't want to see that happen to the Ravens. They don't, without Lamar Jackson, they really don't have any good backups to help him out. So says the key stat: there's a reason why Baltimore has put a premium on protecting quarterback Lamar Jackson. Since 2019, the Ravens are 64-23 with Jackson as their starting quarterback, 4-9 without him. Last season, Jones was in strong pass protection, allowing 1 sack and 23 quarterback hurries. He's Baltimore's latest investment on the offensive line. Comes off the internet. All this stuff I'm reading off the internet. Round 4, the 129th pick, Teddy. T-D-D-Y-E, I guess it's pronounced Teddy Buchanan. Inside linebacker, California. Says he will make his mark at the NFL Combine by recording the highest vertical jump, 40 inches, among linebackers. Third player to get drafted from Cal to the Ravens, joining quarterback Kyle Buller, first round of 2003, and cornerback Mark Anthony, 7th round in 2013. All right, round 5, the 141st pick, Carson Vinson, offensive tackle, Alabama A&M. It says he is a developmental offensive tackle who was the only HBCU player invited to the NFL Combine and Senior Bowl this season. He's the second offensive lineman to get drafted by the Ravens this year, besides Jones in the 3rd round. He projects to play both guard and tackle. A 4-year starter at left tackle. He allowed 2 sacks last season. All right, moving on to round 6, the 178th pick, Bill Hall Cone, cornerback, Western Michigan. The GM did say that the Ravens would take a cornerback in the draft, and Baltimore has 3 proven cornerbacks in Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, and Chidobe Awuzie. Last season at Western Michigan, he broke up 9 passes, and he added 70 tackles and 1 interception. Also in round 6, the 186th pick, Tyler Coop, kicker, Arizona. Very often, it's kind of a surprise. Obviously there were some. Justin Tucker did have some issues this last season, so they're looking at the future, somebody to challenge Tucker. Tucker still has a record though of the longest field goal, 66 yards, but I understand last year the Dallas Cowboys kicker made one also in preseason, so it didn't count. Ravens drafted a kicker for the first time in their 30-year history. Creates uncertainty about Justin Tucker's future in Baltimore. Loop has one of the strongest legs in the draft. He converted 6 of 9 attempts from 50-plus yards, including making a 62-yarder last season. Loop hit 13 of 14 field goal attempts and finished by making a 60-yarder. The Ravens have been the only team in the NFL not to ever draft a kicker. Also in round 6, the 203rd pick, LeJohntay Webster, wide receiver, Colorado. The Ravens addressed their most under-the-radar need in return specialist. They've struggled with punt returns last season. He's a speedy returner, averaged 12.2 yards on punt returns last season, including a 76-yard touchdown. At the Shrine Bowl, his acceleration was 6.2 yards per second squared, making him the second fastest on offense since the Shrine Bowl partnered with Zebra Sports. Interesting. Wow. Another round 6 pick. The 210th pick, Aeneas Peebles, defensive lineman out of Virginia Tech. They had some explosiveness in their interior pass rush with him. Projected to go as early as the 3rd round. He also recorded the FBS fastest time to pressure among defensive tackles at 2.44 seconds. Says they desperately needed to add a defensive lineman. So hopefully that'll help them out. Also, round 6, the last round 6 guy picked by the Ravens, Robert Longerbeam, a cornerback out of Rutgers. I can't remember them ever picking anybody out of Rutgers. Marks the 4th time in the last 5 years the Ravens have selected multiple cornerbacks in the same draft. He has ball skills, including the Big Ten, with 30 passes broken up since 2021. Projected to play slot cornerback because he's 5'11", weighing 74 pounds. He's only the 2nd player from Rutgers to get drafted by the Ravens, and joining running back Ray Rice, 2nd round, 2008. I had not known that Ray Rice had played at Rutgers. And finally, round 7, the 243rd draft pick, Garrett Dellinger, guard, LSU. 3rd offensive lineman drafted by the Ravens, which are the most Baltimore selected in 7 years. Experienced interior offensive lineman, 30 career starts, 24 at left guard. He's extremely disciplined, getting flagged just twice for penalties in 1,937 snaps. So good. Let's see what this draft does for the Ravens, and hopefully they can make a better run to the Super Bowl this year. I really want to see Lamar Jackson win a Super Bowl, and hopefully with these draft picks, the fact that they had a lot of draft picks, most in the draft out of all the teams, they'll go somewhere this year with that. I mean, they've been consistently in the playoffs, but I've got 2 Super Bowl pennants. I'd like to have hang up a 3rd one, and like I've said before, looking for ideas on shows to do in the future, and shows about preserving history, especially obscure aspects of history. It's kind of off topic this time, but I do a show every year on discussing the Ravens draft picks. That being said, like, subscribe, share. As always, thanks for watching.